Hello there folks and welcome to the stream. My name is Mike D'Angelo, aka That Tallest Guy, and today we are returning to our regular flow of maps, our A-B scheduling, after the work that we've been doing on the Kickstarter stuff. The last Kickstarter map was wrapped up last week, so we are very close to delivering all that content to our Kickstarter backers. But we are back to our regularly scheduled programming, which is our A schedule, which is, you know, going to zones that we've already been to, and our B schedule, which is going to new zones and starting things from scratch, learning new techniques, things like that. We are specifically today on our 4th mountain map. What we're doing today is going one north of our mountain waterfall map and one west of our cliffside cave. This is going to be the first map in this series that doesn't have any of the distance mapping in the background or anything like that. You can see in a couple of these maps we had some areas where you could see, you know, the land far below and stuff like that. We don't really need that here. What we do need to do to connect these pieces together is to kind of connect this little riverbank a little better and clean up the corners and the borders of these maps to make them look a little bit more appropriate. You'll see up here we've got, you know, a little bit of mud and dirt and everything like that, and it shouldn't just automatically go into that that full lush green up here or anything like that. So we're going to make a couple of changes to, you know, like the basic structure that I already had. I might try and see. I've got a feeling that we're not going to wrap it up today, even though it is one of our A maps, and we typically do get to a point where these ones are a lot quicker to adjust, just because, you know, we're familiar with the area and that kind of thing. I think the problem is, number one, I'm just a little bit tapped out today, and number two, I don't really have the 4 points of interest that I usually have, and I'd like to try and come up with something. It might not be a full 4 this time; it might be 3. I have 2 right now because the whirlpool, while it's not going to directly reflect any of the things inside the cavern or anything like that, it could be a cool point of interest for people to pay attention to. And then we have a weeping statue that we're going to throw onto the map. The one thing about the weeping statue too is, what is going on with this glove? The weeping statue that we're going to use is not part of the Inkarnate set. We're kind of starting to get to the point where we're exhausting some of like the base assets of the system. Now they're always coming out with more stuff and everything like that, and eventually we will be able to, you know, explore brand new stamps and things like that. But we are getting to a point, especially as I speed things up, of needing to kind of expand outwards. So there's one of the people that we had on here, I think it was Definitely Not Chaos, like a week ago. He was telling me about the I don't think it was Forgotten Realms, Forgotten something or other. And it was a place where we could get a whole bunch of stamps and assets and everything. And it's his own map making software, to the best of my knowledge. But it gave me a little bit of what I needed. Still not perfect, but you can kind of better structure the things that you're trying to look for. But in any case, we're going to get into some of these changes real quick. I think the first thing that we're going to do, you'll see over here, I have the cleanup riverbank here, and then I have Better River and Weeping Statue here. So what we're going to do is we're going to lock our text down over here for a second because I don't want to touch it. Same thing with the whirlpool, and then we'll change these later. Yeah, so you can see, not going to grab that. We'll lock the path too, and then I'll change that as we go. But what we're going to do is go back to our mask options. We're going to add instead of subtract, because I'd like to kind of clean this piece up again. Don't quite need it like that. We're going to use the smoother style, and let's try and get about the same size that we have down here for our rivers. So something like that. And we're just going to follow the kind of structure that we have here. Ooh, and we want to do a subtract now. just going to follow that line. And it's going to end up being adjusted anyway because the cliffs are not going to be totally conducive to a nice rounded river like that. I just wanted to have like a basic shaping kind of snaking shape. So we have something like that. Let's clean this up over here. We do know that we need to tweak just a little bit over here. Not trying to add, trying to subtract. Just something simple like that. We're just trying to move that over so that it kind of slots in the right way. So we've got something like that. Just 10 changes, so we're not going to go too crazy. I don't think that we have, let's see. That's that one right there. So let's get the sizing right. Let's throw this up to the top layer. So it's going to be over that giant stamp layer that we have. I think something right about there ought to do. So we scooch that in there, and we can drop that back behind there now. But the good news is at this point we have the right size that we want to use, and we can start to kind of move our way around a little bit. Let's do something like that. Let's get it right over here on this other side as well. So it wasn't that one. Could it have been this one? It could have been. I think 20 was a good shape for that one, or a good size for that one. So what we're actually going to be doing is, if we're following that structure, the river is going to change a little bit more, and we'll adjust as we go. So let's grab this guy, move that down to 20 as well, and kind of move into our pre-planned shape a little bit better. And let's go down to 20 on this side as well. Let's move it just above the stamp layer so that we can see it a bit better. And let's keep things moving. That's a good shape already. I don't need this pen in my hand anymore. I think that one of the things that we might have to do is tweak the clipping mask, but we're going to deal with that once we, again, get kind of the shape of these things and the borders cleaned up a little better. Once we do that, we should be able to see things a little bit better. It's just for now. We're on a map 4 times the usual size. So we'll tweak those things as we move around. I don't know why these guys. Let's do that something like right here. So it'll be more to shape what we're trying to do. And maybe over here we can throw this one in. I'm gonna do it something like up here, and then we'll make our way towards it. Something a little simpler. I don't think that that's the same one, but it could. Yeah, it's the same thing. So let's throw that over here since we don't have too many of those ones over here yet. tricky. Just kind of layer that one a little bit. Scooch things over. Try and make sure we have a decent shape and distance between certain things. And then let's see if we can't grab a smaller one like this one. Scooch it into place. Right, that one ought to do over there. Still need to get a nice shaped and sized one over here. Good. Alright, we're at 46 changes. Let's do a save real quick just to get all the stuff that we have done. And again, we don't really have to go too crazy. I was just trying to shape things up over here. So let's do our next kind of steps, which is going to be the shape and size of things and the color scheme of certain things around this area. So let's start with the water. Let's make sure that we get the right type of water. We moved up or left from the original map over here because I wanted to make sure that stuff like the hill was taken care of the right way. So we have to figure out on our own how this water was done. Could be as easy as going, you know, into one of our old maps, but we got a first time chat that just came up. Hungry Kobold says, "Sups, how's the map making going?" It's going pretty good. This is map number 61 for me, so just trying to kind of do some connective tissue between some of my earlier maps, so having a good time. Let's just play real quick. We'll see if we can do it without going into another map. I don't think that it's this map, this style, but we'll see. And actually, very well could be, and then I could have just put some stuff over top of it. So we'll do that just to have it for now, and then we'll start to mush some of that other stuff in here. So we've got some of this dirt stuff over here. Let's do a test run real quick with this. We should be on the foreground, not on the background though. So yeah, just that at a lower mask value ought to do the trick. But the first thing that we're going to do is throw one of these other sizes into play, because we've got these leaves over here do not quite match up with these ones down here. So at least let's get the shape a little better off, the shape and the size. So let's move our opacity up. Do something like this that looks much more in line with the stuff that we have in the map one south of there. So just add to all these. These are going to be changed anyway soon when we smush some stuff together. Hungry Kobold says, "Fair, I just finished making a D&D character out of boredom, and I already know I'll most likely never lay them." So you might not. It's one of those things, but I feel like a lot of people have a good time just making their characters. So you know, just having the opportunity to kind of putz around with it. And hey, maybe now you have an archetype for the next Baldur's Gate character you play or something like that. So we're going to come over to here and kind of smush some stuff together, and then we'll go and throw some more of that dirty looking coloring into play. Alright, let's do our mask back down to about 40%. And we're going to do, it got real dark real quick, so let's try, we'll go to the stylus instead, and let's dial it back a little bit. We'll go to like 35%. Worst case scenario, we go over a couple of times. All right, we're going to keep things a little bit more lush towards the water, but we will do a couple of passes over there just to make sure that it looks a little bit more in line with the stuff that we have over there. Let's do one more pass up there, and over here. Alright, it's a reborn Clockwork Soul sorcerer who is a reanimated undead with a clockwork heart keeping their body from rotting. I love the ideas that people have. Like, D&D has the capability of being just so plain a lot of times, but people just let their minds go absolutely nuts in the best ways. I love it. Alright, we're going to do a save one more time, and then we're going to resize this so that we can get the resolution looking right. And we're not going to get rid of any of the stuff right off the bat, but what we will do is kind of start to move things into the area and then figure out what we can get rid of. We know that we're going to use some of the trees. We know that we're going to use some of the rocks. The cliffs we're still going to be using and stuff like that. Hungry Kobold says, I create way too many characters because I think of something interesting, then build a character around it. Well, so, I mean, the nice thing is if you ever do play a D&D campaign with one of your characters and one of them bites the dust, you got plenty of them that you can use in the background. All right, let's do our resize. So we're going to get a 40 by 20. Should bring us to about... what is it? There? Yep, pretty darn good. We're going to confirm, and we're not going to remove any of those objects. Come on. Should see our cliffs a little better. They don't look as far away and muddied and everything like that, but we do know that we need to clean certain things up. We don't need this text over here for cleanup, so let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of our arrow. We know that the river over here is going to be thrown together. Let's put our weeping statue down just so that we have it. We're going to throw it right there at the inset of the curve. And this is the statue that I got from the the stamp stuff that I was looking at. We don't need the path there anymore, and we don't really need the better river and whatever thing anymore. Hungry Kobold says, also thought of something interesting, being a rogue who is allergic to magic. It's funny because the rogue that I play is all about magic, so we've got conflicting archetypes. Does your rogue legit sneeze when they're around magic? Is that the idea, that like stealth is more difficult when they're going through an area that's like filled with the arcane? If so, brilliant. All right, we are going to clean this up a little bit more. Let's see. I'm gonna go back to our smoother looking thing over here. So we'll clean this up just so that we have it done. Don't have to do it later. Alright, one thing that I do know that we need to get rid of at this point is we don't need our mountain waterfall or our mountain ascent battle maps. So let's get rid of both of them. And then we don't have that weird little overlap over there. Let's fill this area with a little bit more water just so that we have it. We'll do some more cleanup as we go along. One of the things that I want to put into play is the actual whirlpool so that we can get rid of this word. And we know that we're going to be doing some cliff work over here and stuff like that, but this will just help us with the basic shape. It'll look a little nicer, and then we'll kind of clean things up tomorrow as we go. So let's go into our stamp set. Just do whirlpool. And we're just going to get this guy here. Doesn't need to be 500. Something like 30 ought to do good. We'll actually go a little bit bigger. Not whoa. Alright, let's get rid of the pull text because I don't need that anymore. Where did you go, text? I know you're in there somewhere. There we go. All right. Something like right here. Keep that right in the middle of the grid. And that way, when the players are looking at this map, they don't have to look through the grid lines or anything like that. The idea for this map is this little whirlpool is not a magical whirlpool or anything like that. It is legit kind of a drain dripping into the cavern below. One map south of here and one map east of here, we've got entrances into the cavern. This little area of the cavern will have water dripping into it, and there will be like an underground lake as well. Hungry Kobold says, imagine it would be when magic cast on them, not just when in proximity, just it affects them, would be something kind of like wild magic, would happen kind of like one of the Baldur's Gate 3 enemies that exist, but not as crazy as wild magic, but can still be interesting. And I agree. I'm one of those jerks who thinks that doing the crazier things to your characters is a lot of fun, so I might seriously hijack your idea of making an allergic rogue, well, any allergic character who's allergic to magic, and making it that they legit sneeze. I think the rogue makes a lot of sense because screwing up their stealth could be a lot of fun. Alright, let's do a little bit more cleanup around here. And we'll go back to subtract. Just to get rid of these lines. Stop right there, because I don't need to go too crazy with it. Or do I? Alright, we've got that little bit cleaned up over there, and this is real ugly over here, so we're going to change this as well. And anywhere that we have that kind of blue overlap, I'm going to try and clean that up as well. Nope, a little bit more. Just touching it up. Alright, perfect. Alright, we got 59 changes. We'll do a couple more. Again, the hill I don't really need to do too much with. Let's lock the hill down so that we're not worried about grabbing that anymore. So if we go off screen now, we're going to be able to get some of this stuff that we can use. We don't need the cave. We don't need those big cliffs or anything like that. I can see over here in the selector what we're actually going to be grabbing. This is another cliff. All right, we did say that we were going to use some of these rocks and stuff like that, so we are going to grab those. There's a tree over here that I want to have. Oh, you know what? Let's do this. We're going to bring this hill over here. And we'll make it, I mean, it is part of a mountain and everything, so we'll do something like this so that we have a little bit of elevation over here. So as the water's coming down, it's kind of running rapids. We have more rapids down here, so it'll be easier to play with that. So our Hungry Kobold said, even thought of a backstory for the rogue being that he learnt that it happens to him because he was getting mocked by a bard who accidentally cast Vicious Mockery, causing the rogue's metal arm to fall off and attack everyone around it. Very quirky, very fun stuff. Like I said, that's the kind of stuff that I like to hear. Let's see. We've got more rocks, more bushes and stuff. Let's do this. We're going to throw all these guys in the water until we don't need them. Or until we do need them, rather. Let's move all this stuff over and figure out what we can use and what we can't. So these cliffs over here, we don't really need them because we already have our big cliffs. Okay. Don't need the big ones. use a variation of rocks and stuff like that. I think most of these are going to be cliffs and stuff like that, so we're going to be tossing a lot of them. Don't need the cliffs up here. But like I said, I want some elevation. Hungry Kobold comes up with downsides to characters because he finds that it's better for him to have some kind of downside to make them unique in a sense. I like that too. I think, you know, if you're talking about us as people, we all have, you know, our positives and our minuses and stuff like that. So it definitely helps to do something like that with our D&D characters, and it makes them feel a little bit more dynamic and a little bit more self-realized. Connects in real nice. We've got this little elevation thing over here, and then as we move further into this zone, we go to the west, we can kind of play with certain things. Now we know we're going to have to put some rocks in the water and everything, so we'll move a couple of these things over to use later. I'm not going to really do anything too crazy with it right now, so we do know that we still need to do a lot of cleanup. Let's try and figure out where we can use some of these. Let's not use the big evergreen. Use the smaller one. And switch up kind of the shape and the size of it and stuff. Let's do that one over here. Oop, that was a big old gunshot in the distance or whatever it was. Hungry Kobold has a human barbarian, or had a human barbarian, who's a werewolf, who has no idea of his werewolf side, but when he transforms, the werewolf is highly sophisticated and intelligent, and despises turning back into what the werewolf calls the beast. Kind of like the I Am Legend side of things. My wife plays a character with multiple personalities, and it plays very similar to that, where the two sides don't really particularly care for one another. Pretty fun. All right, I actually really like the placement of this one. I don't like the angle of it because we know that we have some more rocks over there. And let's change the size a smidge to better reflect how that would look. And we'll throw these kind of clustered together. And we've got this here, but let's change the hue so again it doesn't look like we're just reusing the same stuff over and over again. So we'll make that a little bit lighter, and let's change the orientation of that one a smidge. This rock is going to go in the water, but again, change the shape, change the size, throw that under. We'll make this one be one of those rocks that's fully submerged. These guys, cluster these together and throw them somewhere as well. And I do still need to figure out our other points of interest and stuff like that, but we'll figure that out as we get there. Let's see, oh, you know what? I don't have anything down here because that was just one giant stamp. So we're not going to have that to deal with. Don't need that cliff. So everything ought to be over here. So let's just grab these chunks first. Again, don't really need those trees. If we need to do anything, we'll switch some stuff up as we go. Hey, thanks for following, Hungry Kobold. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I usually go a little quicker on like the zones that I've been in before, but I'm kind of trying to conceptualize where I want those other points of interest. The statue is going to be one. You know, I feel like that's going to be like an offering statue or something like that. We've got the whirlpool that's not going to be totally functional, but you could be really crazy and, you know, you know that there's the kind of shtick that I'm writing for this map and this part of, you know, my world is there's like cultists that have taken up in this cavern below this lake. If you really wanted to, you could kind of like poison the water table and make it so that they have a bad time. All right, let's throw that up a layer or two so that it's above the cliffs, and then we'll find a spot that we don't like as much, something where things connect a little bit ugly. Do something like that. And let's shrink it down a smidge. And we've got some other guys over here. Let's see. Again, I want to change the shapes of things a bit. We'll put these ones underneath the rock. This one is -3. This one needs to drop 1 as well. And let's see. Let's grab a couple more things from over here just to get them from taking up space. I think those might have been our last cliffs. If not, there's... Yep, that's it. So everything on the right side of this map is gone. Alright, so 137 changes is a decent amount to get to our save spot. So Mountain Pond is going to be the name. It's our first save post resolution change and resizing, so that's always nice. You want to make sure you don't go too far. Inkarnate, I was telling my buddy, Inkarnate doesn't usually drop too much crazy stuff, but every now and then you do take a step too far, and it's hard to recover some of the work you do. I was trying to switch some things out with my brother earlier today, and we ran into some trouble. So it's always nice to be able to go back one step than have to recreate certain things. All right, let's keep it going with the cliffs, and you know, it'll make a nice riverbank looking thing for us. Let's see. This over here is going to be a little bit wonky just because of the twist in the river. So let's try and see. Maybe we can do. We'll expand into this area over here. And again, we don't care too much about the existing shape. It's just there as kind of a guideline. So we'll start to kind of tweak things again and put them together. This is another spot where I'll put, you know, like a little bush, and that'll help to clean things up, make them look a little better. Hungry Kobold says, Fair, I've been thinking of making a one-shot myself involving a dungeon that appeared in a tavern's basement, and it changes like every in-game week, and the tavern owners decided if it's there, they can just send people in to pay their tabs if they don't have the money, because the dungeon also refreshes on loot, but none have reached the end due to either being scared to travel too far or died. So is the dungeon part of the tavern itself, or is it like a portal to a dungeon, and the tavern keepers kind of use it in that kind of sense? We did, my brother and I did a tabletop game called Quantum Quest, and like the whole shtick is the dungeon is infinitely changing. So it reminds me of that in some pretty cool ways. And let's keep things going while we're here. It just appeared one time, and the tavern no longer has a cellar they use to store stuff. Very nice. There's some sci-fi elements that my buddy uses in his forthcoming like D&D supplements and stuff like that, and he's got I feel like it's something tavern based, but I don't know if it's quite the same as yours. We have to dig into it a little bit deeper. He really hasn't jumped too far into the map making business or anything like that. But we've got some stuff that we're working on and planning on, so it ought to be fun when we get to that point. Okay, and then we just need that one other piece. Let's just do a bigger version of this one. And then we'll cut back to our smaller pieces. And let's do just one of these small guys. We knew that the shape wasn't going to be 100% set in stone. So, Hungry Kobold's thoughts with the dungeon is that at the end, as a guy who wishes to make the perfect dungeon, and the tavern keeps sending in people for him to test the dungeon on, so he hasn't bothered to move it. I really feel like you'd like Quantum Quest. Yeah, the whole shtick there is like, I was kind of originally thinking the game is very Monopoly-esque. Just very casual and everything like that, but the idea was that we wanted the chambers to be able to be infinitely rotational, so that you could do whatever you wanted as far as, hey, I need to make every game feel unique. And the whole lore behind it is the dungeon master is basically trying to kind of weaponize the dungeon by training his monsters and his traps and nasty spells and everything like that against the heroes that end up being sucked into the dungeon. It's a very cool kind of juxtaposition between the two things that we're into. Something like that. This part of the river is going to narrow up a little bit, so it ought to make things a little bit more rapid when we get to it. My brother and I have been sitting on the sequel to Quantum Quest for like 6 years at this point. The pandemic really screwed everything up, and I think my wife and I are going to be going to you know what, that's too close to that one, so we're going to switch that one out. My wife and I are going to Fan Expo later this year, and I think that is going to be the perfect time to bring things back. Probably run a Kickstarter around it and everything. Hoping for good things with that in mind. Yeah, I think the way we're twisting that around shouldn't look too awkward. Keep it going. Let's do one of the bigger ones instead. Let's do this guy. This one, I think, no, we did not lock that down, but that needs to come up. It needs to be on top of the cliffs, not below it. And then we just need one little guy. So, Hungry Kobold even thought of a move set for the guy at the end of the dungeon. If the players end up fighting him, he has some minions that slow down the party while he walks back and forward, taunting the party, while he takes his turns to basically use an AoE attack that does split damage between the party, or possibly all the damage on a single member. But I don't know if he would be that mean. I am notoriously kind to my players. I'm trying to tell the story with them and everything like that, but the very first experience that they had was a total party wipe, just because I needed them to know I meant business. But it was a fake. It was one of those like video game party wipes where it was intentional, because it was helping to set up some of the greater story. I think they had a good time with it. Alright, so we've got the one bank of this river pretty much completely figured out. So let's get rid of some of this line gunk. In theory, we don't need it. We can, you know, turn off the mask details and everything like that, but just in case I want to have like any ripple effect or anything like that as we go. I kind of like the opportunity of having these things in a nice spot. Let's see, a little bit over here that we need to clean up. Any other blue spots? Well, let's go to the end and we'll clean it up from here. When I eventually do get to the affiliate status, I'm going to have a channel point option that says save your work so that people can remind me if I'm being dumb. All right, we got that one here. Let's go back to add and continue. Oh, that's way too much. Is good. I think we're a little too far over here. Hungry Bold says, yeah, I get that, and I'm planning on doing the one-shot using a 5e book I bought off Kickstarter because it looked really interesting, and it is. I've gotten a couple of those 5e books from Kickstarter. I very much would like to do bigger projects when it comes to D&D. Right now the maps are pretty much the gist of it. I've got like a fantasy writing prompts book that we developed that it's a nice little helper companion piece, and then in March I think my buddy and I are going to do like a specialty critical hits and misses that I think will be fun. Add a little bit of flavor to gameplay, and eventually I would very much like to do, you know, not just one shots but like full on supplements. There's something called Humblewood that I really like, and I kickstarted that a while back, and we've got in our universe like one of the kingdoms is pretty much nothing but like anthro races and stuff like that, and I'd really like to do a supplement with that in mind. Get into the lore of that part of the world a little bit more. Alright, we're at 219 changes, so let's save real quick. I even made the comment about having too many changes and not saving. Okay, a little bit more in this general area. This is why it's so many changes, because I do the real quick tap just to kind of peter away at the brown line, the masking line. And we haven't even gotten like a really good look at this in a while, so when we zoom back out, it ought to look really nice. Okay, Henry Capone says the races are all anthro animals. Funny enough that you mentioned it a bit ago. Yep. Sometimes you're talking to the right people about the right stuff. Yeah, in the world that I'm building, it's the anthro races are, you've got your tried and true, you know, your lizard folk and your gnolls and stuff like that, but we also have our cat race is called the Kaja, and our canine race is, you know, we repurposed kobolds with those in mind. So our kobolds are not like the candle hat wearing ones or anything like that. They're they make the yip yip sounds, but they're dogs instead. Okay. Where else do we gotta do some cleanup? Oh, I missed one. So the 5e book that Kobold got is the Delver's Guide to the Beast World. It adds like one new subclass to all classes, but the Artificer gets nothing and adds like 13 races, all with at least 2 to 3 sub races. So that was how it connected. Very cool stuff. I don't think that Delver was one of the ones that I did, but I've backed like 45 projects, if not more. I just did one of the other mappers that I follow is CZRPG, and they just did an Encounters Kickstarter. I think they just did like another content release as part of that, and I need to jump in and see what they did. I fell behind because I was doing too much with like our Etsy store and stuff like that today. But I eventually need to dive into this other stuff. Otherwise, what's the point? Okay, a couple more additions. I like the humans in the Kickstarter book being from another world that's destroyed, and as soon as the humans came to the beast world, they instantly waged war on them, but got beat within 2 years. I had, there was a big old banishment in my world. Humans were kicked out, and then they found their way back years and years and years later, after the fact. But they came back before most of the other races. The prime races were the dwarves, the elves, and the humans. And then when the humans came back, it was kind of like they opened the door for other races from other worlds. Okay, almost there. Almost to the point where we can zoom out and see our handiwork. To addition, and we're going to do a save after this because 369 is a lot, even though a lot of it is just tap tap tap. Something neat with the humans though is they have no sub race, but they get a free trinket at the start, being a free cantrip that has limited uses till you charge it back up. I like it when systems or supplements or things do that. Just adds a little bit of flavor, especially like if you're playing in a world that's got a lot of magic. Like our world, the whole shtick is it's kind of like medieval superheroes, but I didn't want to give full-on superhero powers to the characters who were at play, so we gave them kind of like you said, like little trinkets. So they've got like 1-day uses and stuff like that. All right, taking a step back. All right, that northeastern bank looks very nice. Once we cleared a lot of that stuff up, it looks a lot more natural, and we've just got a couple more things to do over on this side, and then after that the shape of everything is looking pretty nice, and we don't have to do too much except for just polish. So let's keep things going. Alright, so I don't want to use the same thing there, so we'll do this one. Scooch that into place there. One of the trinkets is called Shock Needles, and it allows them to cast Firebolt that is lightning damage. Very nice. That's one of the other things that I want to do. I would really like to do kind of like a twist on the magic spells and make it a little bit more personalized to the Tellest universe. But I think if we were going to do anything, we would do... I've got a lot of artists that I work with, and it might be fun to do like a traditional card set where we've got something that looks a lot more like the regular 5e stuff, and then we clean it up and do another variant that has... You know what? That one's a little too big, I think. We're going to have to switch that up. Something like that's a little nicer. But then after that, we would just kind of tweak, the flavor of everything. And like you said, like switch things out, make it so that instead of a fire bolt, you've got a shock bolt or something like that. Just a taser. All right, how about on that side? Is this one any better? Oh, you know what? It's the same ugly one that we had on that side. What about this one? If we throw that one in, does that one look a little bit more dynamic? And it does. Okay, and that one should be this last little one ought to take us off this map and on to the next one. So one more little set of cleaning, and I think we're going to be done. 458 changes. And I think at that point we'll probably let this one breathe a little bit. I'll try and throughout the day tomorrow figure out what our other 2 points of interest are going to be if I get that opportunity. And so we'll just do some cleanup. We'll do our nice little show closing. Part of me was trying to see if I had the energy to do like I got Mario RPG, didn't have a chance to open it up yet. Finished Spider-Man 2 over the weekend. I think we're at that point where I'm ready to pop open another game. But I don't know if I have the energy for it today. The kobolds in the book are naturally dumb, but the more kobolds there are, the more intelligence they have. A hive mind of kobolds. I like it. The Council of Squeaks. Alright, where are we missing some other spots? Got this stuff up here. Anywhere there's blue on the rock itself, I like to try and do a little bit of cleanup, like up there. That doesn't need to be there. A lot of work and play on this stuff over here, and then now we're in subtract mode. Just a little bit back into that corner, and let's go back to add because we have a little bit of schmutz up here that we want to clean up. Okay, moving on. Hungry Kobold says there's a subclass that he really likes for the fighter that just seems fun to play. Details, please. Basically has stuff that you spend kind of like KI, but you earn it during the fight instead of having a limited resource of it. I really like that. It's like combo points almost. I like giving combat resources like a different feel, and it especially is nice because like if you're going to be like a tanky class, giving them a different kind of flavor adds like a lot of, you know, a nice dynamic to encounters. Okay, a little bit more cleanup here, a little bit more cleanup here, and I think, nope, still a little bit of mess down here. I can see a little bit of blue in these areas. Alrighty. So let's do one last save and then we'll pause to admire our work. And then we'll wrap things up tomorrow. I thought that this was going to be one of those one session ones and then we were going to move to our next map tomorrow, but I have a feeling our next map is going to be next week. But we might do some stuff in the background. Alright. Pretty good for a start. There's definitely a lot of empty space that we want to clean up and utilize the right way. These rocks are going to end up in the river to help kind of symbolize the rapids and things like that. And we'll figure out, again, with all this empty space over here, there's definitely cause for some cool stuff that we can do. Let's see. So Hungry Kobold says the subclass is called the main event, and it's basically a fighter subclass that kind of works like a performance-based subclass. I like it. All right, we are going to wrap things up. So let's head over to our show closing page. So, folks, on the screen right now, you should see all the places that you can see Tellest's content. The main one, of course, is the website. You can go to tellest.com, and that usually leads you to a couple of the other places that you see. And you can see the other fantasy and sci-fi stuff that we promote. The premium digital goods that you can get from Tellest, including maps like these and our art posts on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, you can find on our Patreon, patreon.com/Tellest. Misery, the man do want his chalky milk. The man appreciates this. Eventually, these videos are going to be purged from the Twitch platform, but you can always find them after the fact on the YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@worldoftellest. But of course, if you do want to catch these live, the only place to do that is here on Twitch. So twitch.tv/thattellestguy. For our premium physical goods, that is the big battle maps on neoprene mats, polyester mats. They're about 40 by 20 inches. And then other stuff as well. We've got bookmarks and stickers and our books, our art book, Quantum Quest, all that stuff. And then, of course, Rihanna's awesome Weird Witch Wands. You can find that on our Etsy shop at tellest.etsy.com. And then the two TikTok channels that you should look at right now are tiktok.com @WeirdWitchWands, which again is where you can see Rihanna's handcrafted one-of-a-kind wands, and tiktok.com/@TellsOfTellest, where you can see our three pups acting like goofballs all the time. And Tales of Tellest is also now on Instagram if you want to just check out some of the reels and some pictures of them acting like goofballs. I'm going to stick around for a little bit just to keep chatting, but at least the map stuff is going to be kind of wrapped up. But Hungry Kobold says one of the things you can spend the heat points on is called Clothesline, and that makes it so if someone enters your reach, you do a weapon attack and the enemy makes a strength saving throw. If they fail, they fall prone. Very cool stuff. I used to professionally wrestle, so I'm all about anything that, again, to your point, kind of makes it a wrestler instead of the bare bones vanilla fighter class. So very cool stuff. I think if we go over to the chat break, we're just gonna have empty space because I have my camera off. So we'll do. Let's see. We'll just keep it on the show closing page. And chat for a couple more minutes before I tap out. Some wrestling-based humor for you there. Another one is Kip Up, where if you get knocked prone, you can spend a heat point to stand back up and do a melee attack on the person who made you prone. I am well beyond the age where I was able to do a Kip Up, but when I was younger and I was professionally wrestling, I could do it. I'm pretty sure if I tried to do it now, I would break ankles, knees, the whole shebang. It would not be a pretty sight. I am poking around at the map in the background, just seeing what I would change and what I would clean up. But I am monitoring the chats. Let's see. Yeah. We're going to save it. We are going to stop touching it. I have like a spare cliff hanging around, and I don't know if I accidentally pulled it from somewhere else. I think it's just a mistake. All right. I think a really cool ability is called Hot Tag, being you can make an ally move up to their max movement without provoking OP attacks, and every enemy that they pass, they can do a single attack against. That is pretty badass. That reminds me of kind of like the command fighter, but to an even higher degree. Very cool stuff. So Hungry Kobold, I am usually doing these at 7 o'clock on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So if you would like to join us again tomorrow, that'd be awesome. I am going to wrap things up. But it was nice meeting you. It was nice talking to you. And again, thank you for the follow. I'll talk to you later. I say I miss you to everybody when I go show close. So I miss everybody, not specifically you. But last thing Hungry Kobold says is the ally also does increased damage based on half your fighter level. So that's very cool too. All right, you have a fantastic day as well. I miss you.